Here's a question for teachers, or really for anyone. Have you ever had hopes and plans for the summer, only to reach about mid-August and realize that you've hardly accomplished any of them? This happens to me over and over, year after year. And I want to talk about it. This is kind of a visual representation, if you will. In May, I've got big plans. I'm stressed. I'm finishing up the year, trying to get all the grades in, but I keep thinking, if I can just make it through this, pretty soon I'm going to have summer, I'll have plenty of time, and I push things off to the summer, a lot of things. I get this built up in my mind, and I make these big plans. And then I hit August, and I have what I would say are meager results. You know, I'm disappointed. I have watched others through social media. They've gone on vacations that I haven't been able to plan or afford for a while. They are remodeling their house or pursuing an advanced degree, or just somehow they seem to be doing better at summer. And it feels like I'm failing at summer somehow. Like I'm messing up relaxing. I'm messing up time off. How do you mess up time off? And there may be a lot of actual reasons that I find myself in the situation where I'm not getting done what I want. I mean, there could be, starting out the summer, just exhaustion counts for some of them, but there are other ones too, several. But here I am. I'm halfway through July, and I want to focus not on why I'm not getting things done. I want to focus on what I can do about it. And specifically, I want to focus on reading. I am definitely in a reading slump, and I thought as soon as summer comes, I'm going to tear up reading a lot of books. I can't wait. And I keep seeing friends posting the books that they're finishing, and I'm not. So let me put this in some specific terms. I have 7 strategies, and I know I can use them to turn this around. So it's time to get started. Only I could start a channel named Books and Budgets and almost completely ignore the books part of it. I'm trying to improve both my financial and my reading habits, and in the last 2 years I've done a lot better with improving my budgeting habits. So it's time, I think, for a summer reset and to work on my reading habits. It's time to talk about strategies, how to get out of a reading slump. So I'm going to go over my strategies, roughly 7 strategies for building a reading habit, because you know it's not just about loving to read. I love the quote from Aristotle that says, "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, therefore, is not an act, but a habit." I love that. So let's get into it. Strategy number 1, schedule your reading. I hate this. This is the one I resist the most. However, the best plans that I have made before have been something like, well, I need to read right before bed. And I either push off my bedtime until I'm already falling asleep on the couch, or I'm so busy that the moment I stop moving, I fall asleep. Before bed is not my answer. So I need to schedule. That means I need to get out a calendar. Let's take a look in here. I fancy up my calendars a little bit with a little bit of color. Monday, which is today, I need to read at lunch, because on the weekends, when I first wake up, the house is quiet, and a lot of times I watch YouTube videos. That's when I need to read on the weekends. And I did that on Saturday. I gave myself a half an hour to read, ended up reading almost an hour. But yesterday, I didn't. So I need to schedule it into my day along with my grocery pickup and my get together with friends tonight. Tomorrow, lunch won't be good, so I have an early doctor's appointment. I can take a book with me when I go there. Wednesday, my mom gets up a lot of times and reads in the morning, and I could get up and join her. We could just sip on something, like some little drink, and then I can read again before bed. But I can take this and look at this on a weekly basis and try to plan it out. One thing that scheduling does, is it gives you a time to look forward to it, but it also, if you can't check it off, you have this feeling that you're behind. So it puts a little pressure on you, and you may try to make it up, say, after work, or while waiting for your grocery pickup, or something like that. So scheduling it with a calendar is actually a plan, a strategy. I resist this one, but I'm going to try it, okay? Another thing that you need to think of when you're planning this, though, when you're scheduling it, is I say schedule a minimum of 10 to 15 minutes at a time. My students, my middle school students, say they don't like reading, and I've watched them read or try to read. I will give them 10 minutes of time to read at the beginning of class, and some of them will play and piddle and do some other things. They'll get in maybe 2 or 3 minutes of reading, period. And a lot of times we read Mondays and Fridays, so they go 4 days and they don't read again. And then they read 2 or 3 minutes, maybe 5 this time. And then they go over the weekend, and they only get 2 or 3 minutes every several days to a week. Well, that's not enough. You can't submerge yourself in the story. You can't remember what's going on with the characters, who you relate to, who you don't. You can't remember any of the events in the story. You can't start that movie in your head where you're picturing what's happening in anything less than 10 or 15 minutes. So I always tell them, if I read like you do, I'd hate reading, because you can't get to the fun part the way you're reading. Try to read for 10 minutes at a time, minimum. And if you can, do more. So my goal is to read for 30 minutes a day. I'll give myself credit if I read for less than that, that's fine. But 30 minutes is what I'm shooting for. Strategy number 2, you need to make it social. When we were young, when I was little, I would go off by myself and read, because reading is a solitary thing. And the actual act of reading is, but the more you can make it social, the more you can connect it to your everyday life, the more likely you are to do it. You could join a book club. I've joined 2, plus probably at least 1 virtual one. I have a virtual book club that a friend just asked me to join, and they pick a book and then they read it and discuss it by chapters on this Facebook group. I mean, you can join those book clubs. You can follow social media. Social media has become a big thing for book lovers. Bookstagram, Book Talk, everybody talks about. A lot of the books that end up being considered in one of my in-person book clubs come from those, because a lot of the people in that group follow these social media accounts and hear about the latest books. You can open a Goodreads account. I have an account, and I love the fact that I can see sometimes my friends post that they are on page 145 of a book, and then a day or 2 later they say they're on page 273, and I'm like, look at them. They're not only, I know that they're reading, but they have something documenting it. They can see their progress. The Goodreads account, it's so cool that you can put where you are and update that and update your friends so you can get some encouragement. Also, to go back and see the shelf of all the books that you've read lately. It's a real good way to look back at the end of the year and see what you've done. I share books with friends, and I'm going to pull this one over here as kind of an example. This was one that was big on Instagram and stuff, The Fourth Wing. I heard about it, and a friend of mine, I think I read it, but she ended up giving me the second volume, which is amazing, that we could share books like that. Please don't judge. This is a reading space. We are all readers. This is a safe zone. So I will admit that back in 2007, 2008, when I first read the Twilight series, or what the part that had been released at that point. You may not like the Twilight series. You may have hated what's happened since the movie came out, but it was a kind of a rousing read. It grabbed you and it held you. I mean, the first time I read it in 23 hours. I didn't stop to eat, I don't think. So it grabbed me. And at that point, I was willing to tell anybody about it. I told my hairdresser, loaned it to her, and she read it. I told my dental hygienist, I loaned it to her, and she read it. And when I went for those appointments, we had things to talk about. So, you can share books with coworkers, you can share books with people that you see like that on a regular basis. And not only does it kind of build those friendships and give you some common ground, gives you something to talk about, just gives reading more appeal, I believe. It just feels like it's not just something you do alone and it's done. You have something that you can share with people. One thing I wanted to say was making it social also makes you accountable. And that's what I wanted to say right here. I mean, I have a whole list of books that I was supposed to read for book club or whatever. One of them, this book right here, hopefully it's on the screen, was one I shared with you on this channel months ago. I believe it was the book that I was supposed to have read by the end of March, The Wishing Game. It was early June before I actually read the book. I had another book for book club, this one right here. I think I introduced this one too. I was looking forward to this one because another book by this exact author had been one that I really, really enjoyed. I didn't get this one read. This one's still on my nightstand waiting to be read, and it's in the rotation. All right. Another one that I had for book club and I did read was this one right here, Good Material by Dolly Alderton. The next one, the one that I am prioritizing right now, the one that I'm reading right now, The Other Half of Happy by Rebecca Balcarcel. This is exactly the grade I teach, and I have several students who have this foot in both cultures kind of upbringing, and so I am reading this to see if this is something to bring to my classroom. I really heard good things about it. I have 2 more books for my other 2 book clubs. I have just under 2 weeks to read them. The first one is Savage Appetites by Rachel Monroe. The subtitle is 4 True Stories of Women, Crime, and Obsession. It's a true crime book. That's one of the things that books clubs will do for you, is get you to try something new, get you out of a reading rut. The other book that I have is Chrysalis by Lincoln Child. That one is a kind of a tech thriller with the main character is an enigmologist, an investigator of unexplained things. I want to read it just for the word enigmologist. But making reading social is a motivator. And when you get to adulthood and a busy life and you get to a real reading slump, making it social might be the thing that gets you out of that slump. So keep it in mind. It's a good strategy. Strategy number 3 is set goals and make your progress visible. Now, there's 2 ways to do that with this. You can track your actual habits, like are you reading daily? I briefly showed you my calendar and planning. Some of you may have seen this up here. This is a habit tracker like people use in bullet journals. And with this, this is just for this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I haven't yet done my reading, but I've done my planning for today. So all I have to do is color in a little dot under Monday for planning. Okay? Getting enough water and getting a good amount of sleep. Those are my other goals. But I haven't yet done my reading for today. How many colored dots I have here could show my progress. And if I make 3 colored dots this week and I make 4 or 5 next week, I mean, like I said, it's showing progress. It's showing that I'm making strides. I say the thing about, when I was talking about this, I said you need to read 10 to 15 minutes minimum. Usually that hasn't been my problem. To get out of a slump, what I would usually do is I binge read. I would sit down and read a whole book in a day or two, especially when I have book club and we're going to discuss them. I will procrastinate it till the last minute. Having something that would track daily habits would put me much more in line with getting these things done without a panic at the last minute. And I think in the end, I would end up reading more because I would make it a habit. Another thing that I've done is in a journal. I did this last year. I love the idea because I love the colors. I would just do some kind of habit tracker. This one was supposed to be for the July. I'd already missed the 1st, but it was going to go the 2nd through the 31st. It's 30 days. And it's color-coded. If I didn't read at all, it would be in red. See, that was a bad week. The whole week was bad. Okay, if I read only 15 minutes, because my goal was still read for 30 minutes. My goal is right here. If I read for 15 minutes, it would be yellow. I just kind of do traffic lights. Red is bad. Yellow is caution. Green is good. So if I read for 30 minutes, I'd color it green. If I read for more than 30 minutes, especially like an hour or more, you can see that binge reading that I was talking about. Spent 2 days, read for hours, but then I lost track and stopped filling it in. And I kept track for 11 days, and that was it. So tracking your actual habits, or you can track the books you complete. Things like this. Some people have this done, they draw it themselves in a bullet journal. You can print these out. You can put the titles of the books that you have here. It's a coloring sheet. You can color it in if you want. It makes it visual. I think anything that you're trying to show progress on, there are so many people that respond to visual stimulus. So if you've got a bulletin board, if you've got a refrigerator door with a magnet, you can put something like this up where you can see it every day, where it can motivate you. Okay? If you're tracking books completed, I found this one. These are all free that I got off the internet. This one was one I liked on A Country Girl's Life. I'll put the links down at the bottom. This one, Hadley Designs and Everyday Reading. Did this one, I think, together. I love the globe and the plants. This one is ambitious. This one has 100 books. You'd have to either read really small, or there's a part of me that would love to blow this up to at least double this size, like an 11 by 17, and print it out and have it, fill it out for the whole year. It's got 100 books. Reading is the passport to countless adventures. So I absolutely love that. Set your goals and make them visible. I can also say that there are YouTube channels. I may list a couple of them below. There are YouTube channels where people keep book journals that are amazing. They're like bullet journals, the really artistic ones, but they track all kinds of things. They track the number of pages they read, the number of days that they read, the genres that they read, the titles of the books that they read, and they track challenges that they have. I have a friend in one of my book clubs who reads way more than I do. She will post what number the book is for the year. She'll set a goal at the beginning of the year. I want to read 50 books or 40 books, and she'll make that. She will post what number it is. This is book number 17 for the year. She will put stars underneath it, out of 5, and then she will put one quote. Just one quote with no explanation. And of course, she posts a picture of the cover. If something from the cover or the quote piques your interest, you find yourself looking up her books. And she has a running picture record of her progress for the year. That's a really good way to do it. Setting goals and making it visible. That was strategy number 3. Now, strategy number 4, reward yourself. I'm going to take a sip of this because I'm about to mention this anyway. This is my little cup of vanilla chai tea. whether you are going to allow yourself to buy new books as a reward. That could be a thing. Now, I am aware that I am a budgeting channel, and I'm not going to encourage a bunch of out-of-control book buyers like myself to go out there and spend money. But you could set a goal that after reading so many, or even after recycling so many of your books, if your bookshelves are getting full, before any more come in, you need some to go out. But you might set that goal ahead of time. I really want to buy this book, so when I read these 5 and I, pass them on to somebody else, I'll let myself buy that one book. So you can plan that. But it could be other things that you buy. You could buy yourself Starbucks. You could buy some cozy socks or some kind of throw, something to make your reading experience better. You could set these as goals. If I read this much, this is my reward. If I read this many books in a year, this is what I'll get myself for Christmas. You can reinforce the daily habit with a reward, something like setting aside tea time. This is my tea here. I don't have, as the British say, I could have a cuppa and a biscuit. I don't have any cookies right at the moment, but there's something about having that time as well. That would be a great way to transition from my work day to my home day. So I could do that. I can read a book and then schedule a movie night with friends to watch the movie. Find some way that you will feel rewarded, that you feel that you've accomplished something. We're reward-driven people. We are. We love that little hit of dopamine. So find something that rewards you and allow yourself to reward yourself for reading. Strategy number 5. Find ways to get around the barriers to reading. Find ways to make it easier for yourself. This is one example. Say you want to read the book, The Hobbit. Check out, or you buy it, you have it, you check it out, you have the physical copy of the book, The Hobbit. I love this one with the illustrations. Note on the text, chapter 1. Now, I don't want to carry this with me everywhere. I don't carry it to work. I don't carry it to, truth be told, I do. I carry my books back and forth and never read them. I don't crack them out of my backpack. However, the one thing I do have with me all day long is a phone. And I could also check this book out on the ebook out and have it on my phone. So when I'm at work and I have a few extra minutes, when I am waiting for groceries, grocery pickup, or waiting at a doctor's office, and I haven't carried this with me, it's with me all the time. I could also listen to the audiobook on the drive to and from work. I can check that out, the audiobook, as well as this from either my school library or the public library. So if it's available, I can have a book in all 3 formats and with me at all times. That really cuts down on the reasons that I might give myself for not being able to read. I get rid of those barriers to reading. A lot of people think that reading an ebook isn't their preference. Reading an audiobook, some people think it's not even reading. If you are already reading the book and you're reading it in your preferred format somewhere or somewhen, why not? I mean, you shouldn't put up more barriers. It shouldn't make a difference. And I even did a reread of the Harry Potter series with the audiobooks. I'd read the physical books 2 or 3 times. So decided, my next trip I was going to do the audiobook. And it was a fresh experience. It took an old favorite and made it fresher again, which was really, really nice. Now I've got the illustrated versions that I need to do a reread with. So, to sort of paraphrase a little bit what I say with my budgeting channel, read where you are and use what you have. It doesn't have to even cost money. If it's hard to afford all the books, you've, of course, got public libraries, school libraries. You can start a book swap with some friends. There are little free libraries in neighborhoods all around, and they would love to have your excess books when you're ready to, take one, leave one, kind of. Thrift stores are places where you can get used books. You can even get used books on Amazon for relatively little money. Now, the newest bestseller is still going to be expensive, but I want to show you something that I did on, and I know the glare might be bad on this. This is a little book called 84 Charing Cross Road, and it is a book of letters written. This woman, she started writing them not long after the Second World War. She lived in New York City, and she wanted certain copies of some classic books, and she was on a budget, and she couldn't find them very inexpensively, but someone told her that a bookshop in London would, if they had them, would sell them to her at a reasonable price and ship them to her. So she started writing and asking about books, and it began a decades-long correspondence with a man that worked at the bookstore. She ended up knowing something about his wife and his family, and it was made into a movie with Anne Bancroft. It's just the sweetest little book, and I recommended it for our book club one year. But at the time I bought this one in hardback, I saw that she had written a couple of other books, including The Duchess of Bloomsbury Street, and I can't remember the third one. I ordered those other two as used books. You can see these are not brand new. However, this one came with the author's signature in it, and the other one came, I'm not kidding, from a little bookstore in England. So it was shipped overseas to me, just like the books that she had done. This was such a cool experience, and I paid, I don't know, well under $10 for, I think, both of the books combined. So there are ways to get around those barriers of cost or time or availability. Just find ways, use what you have, read where you are. Okay, strategy number 6. Challenge yourself. If you're going to get out of a reading slump, you've got to fight for it. And there are ways to fight reading slumps. You can fight them with a buddy read. You can fight them by trying a new genre. You can reread an old favorite. This is another really good read. And I read it years ago, read it more than once, read the whole series, saw all the movies. Yes. Then I found out that a friend in my book club had not read this series. She hadn't read it at all, and she ended up at the movie for the one about the snakes. I've lost the name of the book. Her latest book and movie. And she had nothing to kind of base it on because she hadn't read the foundation books. So I talked her into reading this one. I said, you really need to. And talking to her about it made me want to reread it. And it's such an easy read. So, of course, I jumped in there and reread it. Now I want to read the rest of the series. Which is another thing I was going to say. Maybe the way to get out of a reading slump is to read a young adult or children's classic. It doesn't have to be one that you've read before. It can be a new one. But these books usually are high excitement, high interest, and not as dense with the plot and the themes, so that it's just a little bit smoother sailing. You can read them quicker, remember what's going on a little easier, and so it's high rewards for less effort. And if that's what it takes to get you back to reading what you want to read, then jump into it. Okay, another thing that you can do besides some old classics or some YA, have you read a novel in verse? This is one that I teach in my classroom. A novel in verse is written in free verse. It doesn't rhyme. And I've found these to be amazingly accessible, but also amazingly interesting. these are full novels with full emotions, but they take a fraction of the time to read. I think I can read this whole thing in less than 2 hours. I teach this book, but I teach a graphic novel version of this. Have you tried a graphic novel? They are getting surprisingly sophisticated, and I would definitely recommend them. They're very much worth the time. This one was very good because it was word for word this book, but with graphic representation. There's another one that I read that was by George Takei that was the story of his family's internment in a Japanese internment camp in Arkansas. And it was fascinating. I learned unexpected things from what some people call a comic book. Is it easy to read? Yes, most of the time. They have mature themes. So, but it's fast, it's different, it's easier. If you are in a reading slump, if you have this block about getting started reading, anything you use to break that block is going to help you. You could try reading a celebrity pick. I believe I mentioned that this book was a Read with Jenna book. You know, Oprah's got a book club. You might have heard of it. Good Morning America has a book club. Reese Witherspoon has a book club. She recommends books. Even Amazon does a best of the year, and they do best of the month, and their editors pick in different genres. Go to one of those lists. Find something that grabs your interest so that you can get past this slump. There are also a whole set of reading challenges, and I will link a lot of these down below. This one's the 52 book club, a book challenge for 52 books. I would never make such a thing, but they make a list, and you don't have to read them in order, but you can. You don't have to read a book that only fits one of the categories. You can read a book that fits 3 of the categories, but there'll be random things. A locked room mystery, a character-driven novel, features the ocean. It could be all kinds of things. So they have this, the 52 Book Club has this as a reading challenge. Shelf Reflections has this one, which has, I think, more like 30 things. A book with time travel, a book about an escape. Some of them will talk about the color of the front cover. A book set in the Pacific Northwest. Award winners. This one has, maybe that one had 45, this one has 30, because I remember this one having 30. One recommended by a friend. One that's been on your to be read list for more than 5 years. It's time to get that out. Check that one off. They will even break it down to where they're going to read one of these books every 2 weeks and discuss them. They'll start a thread and discuss it. Read a book set in a city starting with the letter A. They're discussing it. They discussed it the 7th of January. So, I mean, that's a book every 2 weeks. That's manageable. And this gives you even target dates. Or if even that is kind of challenging, there are some places like this one is made by Novelist, and they do a challenge a month, 12 books a year. There are all kinds of reading challenges. If you just Google 2024 reading challenge, you're going to find a dozen of them. Find one that speaks to you. And if you're a person who likes checking things off, you know, one of these with the check boxes could be a lot of fun. The whole point is that you should be challenging yourself in some way. You should make it fun. You should make it social. You should make it a new experience. Strategy number 7. All right, this is the last one. Improve 1%. Now, that's a saying that I've heard in a lot of places. I've heard it with budgeting. I've heard it in athletics. I've heard it about building a YouTube channel and making YouTube videos, starting a channel. Every video that you make, try to improve 1%. If you're making it visible, like I said in strategy number 3, you should be able to go to something like this or something like this and see Did you get 1% better? Did you get any better? Did you read one more day than you did last month? Did you read one more book than you did last year? Anything. It's not about being perfect. It's, am I getting better than I was? It's progress, not perfection. So think in terms of the positive about what you did. I tend to think in terms of the negative. I didn't do this. I didn't do this. Okay? But everything that you do, everything that you accomplish is an act of courage and intention in a very overstimulated world. Be courageous. You are. I know you are. So little by little, page by page, it's going to add up. Those are the 7 strategies that I recommend and that I tell other people or students. And I know some of them are things that have worked for me at different times in the past. Some combination of these I will be using over the next few weeks to build some reading habits that I hope I can carry into the school year, because if I don't build them now, then it will be a struggle to build them once school starts and things get crazy. I don't want to leave reading behind come August. I want to make it a part of my daily life. So there's no time like the present. Strategy number 2, where I said make it social. I also talked about accountability. I showed you where I'm planning to read this week. And I am going to check back in with you next Sunday to update you on my progress. And I'm picking Sunday because there was something else that I wanted to do, and I've decided that I will do it, but I'm not going to make it a special video. I'm just going to tack it on to the end of my book and my reading accountability. You know that this channel is new to me. I've only had the channel going about 3 months, and I have seen that there are some people that will check in once a week and show their YouTube progress, trying to progress, as I said, 1% every week. And I have been tracking that every week, but I have not been sharing it. I have kept it quiet and not wanted to step out there and take the risk of sharing. So I'm going to share with you where my numbers are right now. Lately, things have been unexpectedly positive with my YouTube channel. Things have gone a little faster. I'll have to see which graphic I'm putting up, but I think that my current subscriber list or subscriber number is at 95, and that is unexpected. Some of it, the progress happens when I'm not looking, but I do want to keep posting videos. Try to make it a minimum of once a week, but I'd much rather do twice a week as a minimum, and get that established. Try to be a little more regular, maybe a little more consistent with what day I post. Try to get some of those habits tacked down before August. So that is my goal, is to, especially after I get back from my visit. I will be out of town from Tuesday until Friday. So I'm hoping that I will have a video that I can post. I can schedule a post during that time and then get back to posting again when I come back next weekend. So that is the plan. Some consistency, planning more videos. I also, another area of improvement that I am planning on, a third, is I want to explore the community tab and see if I can leave a post and start a conversation. So if you have made it all the way to the end, I hope that one of these 7 strategies is something that you can see helping you to read more in the next week or the next month, because I'm going to be trying right there along with you. If you think that it will help, give me a thumbs up. I would love to have you subscribe if you haven't already, or leave me a comment about the book that is your priority. I told you my priority is at the very bottom of the stack. It was. So this is my priority. I have started and read the first 10 chapters. I need to get some reading time in today and continue with that. I believe my second priority should be one of my book club books, but if I can't get my hands on a copy, then it will be this one, which I really want to read. So anyway, that is all that I have for you today. Thank you for staying with me to the very end, and I will see you soon. Bye.